3 years ago, I was failing school, 100 pounds overweight, and honestly, I didn't know where I was going to be. I thought I was going to be in one of two places, and that is dead or in prison. Right here, what you're seeing on the board is essentially bar for bar, word for word, how I changed my life over a span of 3 years. I'm now a tutor at a university. I have a 3.8 GPA. Like I've mentioned, I've lost over 100 pounds. I was a personal trainer at a commercial gym. I've had a lot of accomplishments since then. So how did I do that? And it's possible for you. If you're watching this and you're overweight and you're depressed and you have these bad thoughts that shouldn't even be there to begin with, I'm literally you. You're literally, this is happening for a reason, all right? And by the end of this video, you're going to know how to change your life exactly how I did. Now, it might not be able, you're about to follow it like step for step, like it's a math problem. Yeah, it might not add up. You might have to adjust it depending on who you are and your circumstances. But this is quite literally how you can go from being overweight, depressed, suicidal, to completely having a 180 and people just jaws fucking dropping. How? So how? Well, first off, I got very first on the board. Trauma is going to always transpire some type of awakening. Now, when you think of something bad happening, you just think of the negative, which obviously, something bad happening is negative. But the way, if you can perceive that as something positive, not even perceiving the situation as something positive per se, but if you can just make something out of the situation, that's kind of what I did. Like, my ex-girlfriend left me. And what I mean by awakening is it's not like, oh, my girl left me, so I'm a badass, I'm going to start hitting the gym. Unfortunately, as cool as it would be for that to work, that's not how it works. Really, in reality, I laid there in my bed for weeks and weeks and weeks, self-harming and eating fucking mass amounts of McDonald's and doing all kinds of other bullshit. But it really eventually kind of woke me up. She left me for my best friend. She thinks that she can leave him because he's better. She saw a better future with that dude than she saw with me. So that really woke me up to the world, really woke me up to reality, the reality that I had myself in, the reality I was living in, what I was doing, all kinds of different things. It kind of woke me up. I realized, damn, I'm a fat piece of shit who's really has no future. I was selling drugs, I was doing all this kind of shit that I shouldn't have been doing. And I was really awakening. I was awakening. You gotta realize where you're at in life. Like right now, I'm not nowhere where I want to be. I don't have a PhD. I'm not a professor. I'm not doing any of these things I want to do in life yet, right? But I'm trying to get there, and you got to be awake about it. And when I say awake, I mean you got to be aware. Essentially, you got to be aware of the situation that's going on. You got to know where you are. And sometimes it sucks to have that awareness, but it's really genuinely needed. And a lot of times, especially if you're watching this video and it really hits home for you, you're probably at rock bottom. Like, let's be fucking real. You're probably at rock bottom, right? And that's good. You think being at rock bottom sucks. And I'm going to hit you with a little corny little quote that's actually true as hell if you think about it. There's nowhere else to go. When you're at the very bottom, you can't go any further down. You can only go up. And as corny, as cliche, as bullshit, and rainbows and unicorns and shit as that sounds, it's honestly kind of true to an extent. You can reach a very, very rock bottom that can be hard to dig yourself out of. But when you reach rock bottom, not only is there nowhere to go up, but it strips your ego. All that shit about you thinking, oh, I'm this, I'm that, it's gone. You know why? Because it's just you, your insecurities, and who you really are. Which honestly might transpire some of those insecurities on who you really are once you do some self-analyzation, self-digging. But that ego is gonna strip everything you have. That's part of being at rock bottom. It's having that shit, knowing that, okay, I'm not to where I want to be like I just said previously, knowing that. Because if you have an ego, you're not going to go anywhere. And I got an example of this, right? So like, if you're in class, and let's just say you don't know shit. When I went to last semester's biology lecture, I didn't know, all I knew was biology is the study of life. I didn't know what a molecule was. I didn't know what an organelle was. I didn't know really truly what DNA or RNA or any of that shit was. I didn't have any idea. And it was very humbling. It completely stripped my ego. But having my ego stripped like that was good. Why is it good? Not because I was humiliated or embarrassed when I got an answer wrong in class. It was good because I had that realization that I knew I needed to grind. I knew I needed to study. I knew I had to go to this guy's office hours to get better with the concepts and the lectures. I knew that. So I would grind because I was at rock bottom. The only way to go is up. So why not study my ass off and grind, right? It's the only thing that makes sense to me. So when you reach rock bottom, you gotta look around and be like, damn, I'm here. It's kind of like, I got the gym as an example. 200 pounds, dude. 260 pounds, sorry. Looked in the mirror, dude. Man tits, freaking big old belly, dude. Freaking my like right here would chafe whenever I'd go to work because I was so fat they would rub against each other and bleed. So yeah, I'd look in the mirror and I hated myself. I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I thought. That's rock bottom. And I had to change that. And sure, it didn't just change over time. It didn't just change overnight. But it changed. And how that happened is you got to reach rock bottom. As stupid as it sounds, as bad as it sucks. I mean, you got to have no ego, and you just got to go in there with rebuilding. When I went to the gym, I didn't know anything. First time I ever stepped in a gym, I literally walked up to some dude. He wasn't no bodybuilder. He wasn't no jacked. Hell, he probably looked like how I look now, essentially. And I was like, hey man, I don't know anything about this. Can you like show me? And he showed me all the machines and everything. That was very humbling, very scary, but instead of being at rock bottom in that scenario, I was one step closer to where I wanted to be. And then I kept going to the gym and I kept digging myself out of the rock bottom. That's how you truly get yourself out of there. Even with like mental stuff. If you're really depressed, as corny as it sounds, I used to have a counselor say this when I was younger, but go look in the mirror and say some positive affirmations to yourself. Yeah, it sounds corny, but it's literally going to rewire the way you think of yourself. You're going to see yourself talking to yourself in the mirror. It's going to rewire your brain to where you know you can do shit. I do this all the time. I'll literally go in that bathroom right behind me, and I'll look in the mirror, and I'll be like, you are going to pass this test. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. It's also the law of attraction, right? So if you say you're going to have these things, you write it on paper, you go into the mirror and say it 1,000 times, and you go pursue these things, you're going to attract them. That's a whole different video. But rock bottom is very important. And also, when you're at rock bottom, you're going to realize another thing on this board, that nobody's going to come and save your ass, all right? When I was in the gym, when I was alone and my girlfriend just left me, nobody was, oh, Caston, is it okay? Is there anything? Nobody gave a fuck. Nobody cared. Nobody cared that I was in there every single day, like, harming my family did, right? But other than that, none of my high school little buddies cared. My best friend in the entire world that I would have took a bullet for back then that I absolutely loved, bro, I thought he was my brother. He didn't reach out to me once. He didn't care. As a matter of fact, he felt hostility towards me, all right? No one is ever, as much as you think, whether it's grades, whether it's the gym, whether it's making money, nobody's ever going to come and save you. Yeah, you're waiting for, I hate to use this as an example, but I'm not going to say, but people at the school, for example, not people at the school, but just people I went with class are like, oh, well, maybe she'll forget about the assignment this week. Dude, fuck all that shit. You should have just did it. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's coming to save you, bro. Nobody's going to forget about X, Y, and Z so it can put you at a better advantage, or nobody's just going to come and be like, hey, if you're trying to get rich, nobody's going to be like, hey, man, I got the best plan ever to make $1 million. Sorry, buddy, that's just not going to happen. You got to do it on your own. That's why reaching rock bottom is a damn good place to be, because when you reach rock bottom, you got nowhere to go up, and nobody's going to come and save you, right? And also, when you reach rock bottom, you have a lot more humility and realization about who you really are. So at that point, you're going to save yourself. And when you reach rock bottom, and like I said, you start taking these small steps to climb up, you're saving your fucking self. So it doesn't matter if anybody's going to come and save you or not, because you're the savior. And that's what you want to be. You want to be your own savior. You don't want to wait for somebody else to come and help you. You don't want to depend on a fucking tutor to make you have good grades. You don't want to depend on your financial advisor to make all your investments for you. Let's just be real. You can't depend. Have faith in people, sure. Trust. I'm not saying don't trust in anybody, but you cannot just depend on these people to come and be the knight in shining armor, dude. It's just super unrealistic, and it's never going to happen. And it's never going to dig you out of a hole that you got yourself in. You're the only person who can dig yourself out of a hole that you got yourself in. And that's with, like, the majority of things in life. With my experience, then again, I am young, and there's a lot of things that I've yet to experience, but still. And that goes in with, like, nobody cares. You hate yourself. Dude, if you hate yourself, I'm sure you hate yourself. If you truly hate yourself like how I hated myself, like how I used to be, I promise you with everything I know, bro, that it's not going to hurt you to go to the gym, right? And actually, if you truly, truly, truly hate yourself, you'll want to go to the gym. You know why? Because it hurts. You know why? If you really hate yourself, you know that you like putting yourself in situations that you hate because you hate yourself. If you hate yourself and you're a fat fuck, go to the gym. It literally, why would you not go to the gym, bruh? Be for real. Neurologically, it does so much for you, bro. It gives you confidence, bro. You're like, oh, I was lifting 15s last week, especially with the newbie gains. Holy damn. Yeah, your ego, don't let your ego go high, but it's going to give you confidence. Let that shit give you confidence. Not only with the gym, I mean, dude, when you're going through these bad things, like trauma transpires, like in the very beginning, if trauma transpires, go to the fucking gym, dude. I'm telling you, it's going to relieve so much stress just lifting that weight, bro. Like tearing your muscles apart, how you used to tear yourself down, bro. It's literally all metaphor, dude. Go to the gym. It's literally the best thing. It changed my life. It'll change yours. I can't stress it enough how important it is for your mental, for your physical health, and the brain and the body are the exact same fucking thing. If you want to figure out the cure to like anything psychologically, you're gonna have to understand the body to a high degree. And anything you eat with your microbiome is gonna affect your brain. Anything you fucking do essentially affects your brain, almost damn near anything. So take care of yourself, bro. Go to the gym. I mean, let's be real. All right. And after, like, for me personally, because I was like I was saying, it's kind of like a list of how I did it. It's not like spot on, but it's pretty damn close. The isolation phase, bro. This is like after you've been at rock bottom, you've saved yourself at this point, right? You got a coping mechanism. Mine was the gym, mental and physical therapy, like literally physical. I changed. People treated me different. When people started treating me different, it viewed the way that I viewed myself. It changed the way that I saw myself even. So like it's powerful shit. But let's go off of what I just said. It changed the way that I saw myself because of how other people saw me. That is a problem. That's a problem right there, and I'll tell you why it's a problem. If so-and-so thinks X, Y, and Z about me, and then other group thinks A, B, and C, and I like X, Y, and Z and not A, B, and C, then that might affect my mental if I'm too touchy. And this is for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Us as humans, we never want to admit it, but we care what people think, bro. We care so much what people think. Why do you think a girl puts on makeup in the morning? Because she cares what people think. Why do you think like I put on a decent fit and then just dress up like a bum? I mean, this is kind of bumming, but still you get the idea. I can put on something worse, So like, it's because simple shit, right? I literally forgot what I was saying. But it's because we care what people think. And if you want to get to the point where you really don't care what people are thinking about you, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what my mom thinks about me. I love my mom to death, but it really don't. It don't matter what my professor thinks about me. Yeah, it'll help me if they think highly of me. But at the end of the day, when I die and I meet the Almighty, is that going to matter? No. What matters is if I know myself and I know God, right? So that's what really matters, and that's what you got to know. So isolate yourself, dude. When you isolate yourself, you discover so much. So at this point in my life, I was going to the gym and I was like, bodybuilding. This is going to be my life. And isolation quite literally changed my life. I had a girlfriend. I had X, Y, and Z at the time. It wasn't a great relationship. That's besides the point. I was happy with it, right? And I had friends and shit, yada, yada, yada. So like, I would also be alone a lot of the time when I was working out. I'd go in the woods, up in the mountains a lot alone, and just think, like really think. And one day, I was alone in the gym, and I found God. I just said, God, I don't know what I'm missing. And he said, it's me, it's God. It's what I was missing. Go to school for psychology. It's not like I heard some big voice. It wasn't some super cinematic shit like Jesus didn't pop in front of me. I mean, let's be real now. I just felt in my heart, and I just felt led by the Lord. I can't explain it, but I literally just knew it was God calling me to do that. And it was all because I was isolated. Now, isolation also is going to help you, like I said, discover yourself. It's going to help you discover your purposes. And it's going to help you build that mental barrier. Oh, I can save myself. I can do these things alone. You don't always have to depend on somebody. And I'm not saying be isolated all the time. Isolating yourself can honestly, if you're doing it the right way, don't do it if you're like super depressed, right? But if you're past that point of like self-harm, self-hate, hatred, all that, dude, isolate yourself. Discover who you are. Discover what you want and what makes you feel what and why you want these goals and everything. Ask yourself 1,000 whys and hows and whats until you truly know. And that's how I discovered that I wanted to come to school. That's how I discovered I wanted to get my PhD. And think about it, if it was never for that discovery, I wouldn't even have half the belief in myself that I have now, right? I wouldn't believe that I could do all these things. I wouldn't believe that I'm intelligent. I would still think that I'm that 2.2 GPA person. So it's changed my perspective on myself a lot. And that's a butterfly effect because it was all because I was isolated and found God that completely changed everything. And over time, with just changing and evolving as a person, you got to keep doing these. You got to keep going to the gym. You got to keep isolating yourself, not constantly. You got to still have friends and make relations with people, but, figure out who you are. And you're going to do this, 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 you're going to do this. And eventually, you're just going to become a whole different person because you've learned how to transpire trauma to literally be your own power. Something bad happens in your life, you it's not like you can just press a button, obviously, but you can quite literally mentally flip the script on it. And what I mean by that is, hey, for example, my girlfriend left me. At the time, I didn't think of it like this, but that was quite literally the best thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life because of the butterfly effect. If she would have never left me, I'd probably be in prison for selling drugs right now, or dead. Like, honest to God, right? She would have never left me. Crazy. I would have never came to school. I would have never found my passion for science. I would have never went to the gym, probably. So think about that. Think about that. And also, when you're transpiring this stuff, and you've hit rock bottom and all of this, every time you transpire your trauma, and instead of being like the old version of yourself and being like, damn, this is going to hit me, this is going to nail me, this is going to throw everything back this week, this is terrible, and you're able to mentally flip that, like, okay, I got a parking ticket. Instead of being like, dang, F the cop, yada yada yada, F them for giving me a parking ticket, you can be like, it's all good, I just won't park there next time and laugh it off. Literally will change your perspective on fucking life, bro. It will quite literally change the way you view everything when you do that. Start looking, I mean, yeah, it's hard to find the positive in a lot of stuff, but stop being so fucking negative. Stop being so, learn to see the good in some things. If there's a lot of, something bad might happen in your life, and you might not realize it because God works in super mysterious ways that we'll never understand. But something bad in your life, like me, might happen, and it might wind up being the best thing that ever happened. And every time you transpire this trauma, or every time you reach rock bottom and you're building yourself up and you're saving yourself, and every time you find and implement that coping skill, for me it was the gym, you're literally killing it and getting rid of, exterminating the old version of you. And that's how you know that you're doing it right? Because you don't want to be that person that you were. You want to be a whole new person. New ideas, new thoughts, new beginnings. You want everything to be new. And that's essentially how you do it. And I'll leave it on this. I'll just end the video on this. Thank you guys for watching, but also, if you watch this video to the end, I appreciate you. But if you did, and you're not consistent with any of this, none of it matters. Thank you for watching. I'm Caston Smith. I'm a sophomore psychology student at the University of Arkansas. Have a good day.